Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 Nintendo 64 games of all time. For this list, we'll be looking at the best of what Nintendo's first 3D home console had to offer. Which game was your favorite? Let us know in the comments. Number 20. Kirby 64: The Crystal Shards. At first glance, Kirby 64 may seem like more of the same, and while it doesn't exactly break new ground, it does a great job at enhancing what came before. The franchise's cutesy, simplistic art style transitioned extremely well into 3D for the first time, and the game offered a new spin on Kirby's copy ability by allowing him to mix and match his various power-ups, totaling 28 possible combinations. The story, following a lone fairy who enlists Kirby to save her home from the invasive Dark Force, takes the little puffball across surprisingly varied planets. While it's a bit on the short side, an endgame twist will make you happy to 100% it. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Dive into a rich world with millions of players, hundreds of champions to collect, and tons of activities like dungeons and PvP with Raid Shadow Legends. Use the links below to download Raid for free on mobile or PC. Alright, let's talk about my favorite piece of super tough content, the Doom Tower. The Doom Tower is a massive prison where the Arbiter trapped the most powerful enemies in Raid. But now, the wards protecting the Doom Tower are failing, and it's up to your team of champions to climb to the top and put a stop to the bosses trying to escape. You'll generally want ways to remove debuffs, and you'll also want pretty high resistance. Lots of Doom Tower bosses ignore block debuffs, and they can do nasty stuff to your champions, like draining their turn meters or stripping their buffs. If you manage to conquer the Doom Tower, powerful treasures await you. And this month, Raid's got tons of activities lined up, special events every day, a bunch of awesome new champions, and the all-new powerful Guardian Ring that unlocks new ways to use your champions. And at the start of December, Raid's releasing one of its biggest, most anticipated features ever. With all these new updates and an even bigger one right around the corner, now is the best time to get started in Raid. Hit the link in the description or scan my QR code and you'll get an epic hero Chonoru who's great for the Doom Tower, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon an awesome champion when you get in-game. All these rewards will be waiting for you right here. Number 19. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 doesn't get enough credit for how much of an improvement it was over the first game. That's not to say the first entry was bad by any means, that's just how good Pro Skater 2 is. An extra course, 2 for the N64 version, a lot more skaters, including the unlockable Spider-Man, and an awesome soundtrack infused with punk rock and hip-hop were incredible bells and whistles for the sequel. But the addition of the Create a Skater and Create a Park modes, along with the inclusion of trick comboing manuals, made it a lot more fun to play as well. There were just more tricks in general, and we spent untold hours gliding around trying to perfect them. Number 18. Jet Force Gemini. Rare's work with the N64 is some of the best the studio has ever put out. But one game that never seems to get enough love is Jet Force Gemini. The story follows 3 survivors of the total annihilation of the Jet Force fleet at the hands of Majora, an evil alien insectoid with an army at his command. It doesn't get much more classic sci-fi than that. The third-person shooter gameplay is quick and satisfying, and Rare built 15 big, non-linear worlds for players to shoot their way through, an impressive feat for the time. Number 17. WWF No Mercy. With the state of recent wrestling games, you'd be forgiven for dismissing them as cash grabs. But there was a time when players could look forward to them the same way as more traditional fighters. Despite graphics that weren't even that great at the time, WWF No Mercy is one of the best wrestling games ever. And what it lacked in graphical fidelity, it more than made up for with stellar gameplay perfected over the course of THQ's time with the license. The game's single-player championship mode featured 7 different storylines, each of which would adapt to your progress and decisions. But it was also a multiplayer behemoth, with more than 60 playable characters and the option to create your own. Number 16. Donkey Kong 64. Rare revitalized Nintendo's Great Ape with the Donkey Kong Country series for the SNES. And although their journey into 3D came with a problematic amount of collectibles, it was still a journey worth taking.
Well done!
Following King K. Rool's theft of Donkey Kong's banana hoard and the kidnapping of his friends, DK set out to stop the evil crocodile before he could blow up his island. The level design is just as pristine as Rare's 2D work, bolstered by the 5 playable Kongs. Each has their own unique moveset, abilities, weapons, and instruments that lead to silly little musical sequences. And since each level has hidden secrets and objectives for each of them, it was easy to get lost exploring. Number 15. Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
I'm hit! I'm hit! I'm hit!
Star Wars has enjoyed a healthy dose of spin-off video games over the years, and more than 20 years later, Rogue Squadron still stands as one of the best. Set between Episode 4 and 5, it follows a group of elite pilots led by Luke Skywalker as they combat the Empire across various encounters.
I've got a problem here! I'm hit, but not bad.
With levels offering different vehicle and mission types, as well as showcasing well-known locations like Mos Eisley, Hoth, and Kessel, it's a loving companion piece that's also a blast to play.
We saved another world from the Empire. We did well here today. Let's go home.
Number 14. Mario Party 2. To be fair, most of the games in the series are pretty fun to play, but Mario Party 2 is often credited as the best for the improvements it made on the first and how every sequel followed in its path. Other than simply not including minigames that gave their players blisters, Nintendo made subtle changes to the gameplay that would have lasting effects, such as more unique collectible items that players could use to their advantage. And although there were 2 fewer boards, they were all more vibrantly themed, such as Western Land and Horrorland. Additionally, Nintendo offset the smaller board number with 15 more minigames than the first.
Finish!
Number 13. Perfect Dark. It's been heavily overshadowed by the game it's a spiritual successor to, but Rare's Perfect Dark is at the very least the system's second best FPS. Set during an alien war, players control Joanna Dark, agent of the Carrington Institute, as she attempts to stop rival corporation Datadyne from using alien technology to become all-powerful. With a wonderful blend of sci-fi action and espionage, Perfect Dark wowed with smart AI, great gunplay, and better graphics thanks to the N64's expansion pack. Even its multiplayer modes, while not as revolutionary as those in GoldenEye, offered hours of entertainment for you and a few buddies. Number 12. Diddy Kong Racing. Another game that's often overshadowed, Diddy Kong Racing managed to set itself apart with an actual story mode. Rather than simply racing for a trophy, the plot follows Diddy and other animal racers who are recruited to help fend off an intergalactic pig wizard conqueror through a series of races. Ridiculous? Absolutely, but that's definitely part of the fun. Another part is the gameplay. Items are less random, with different colored balloons giving you specific items that can be upgraded by collecting more balloons. And it added more kart variety long before Mario Kart did. Although its multiplayer and track design isn't quite as good, Diddy Kong Racing is a great kart game and it's still fun to play today. Number 11. Super Smash Bros. The one that started it all. Smash has grown exponentially from its humble beginnings of only 12 characters and 9 stages. But it's a testament to how good of an idea it was that the series has been able to grow into one of Nintendo's finest. The appeal of pitting Pikachu, Link, Mario, and other Nintendo characters against each other still seems genius today. While arcades and the PlayStation were busy creating original characters for 1v1 fights, Nintendo was taking a more unique approach and loading it up with chaotic factors. Nostalgia-inducing and hazard-filled arenas would become strewn with death-ensuring items from Nintendo's history. And because the system allowed up to 4 players, Smash was an absolute must for multiplayer mayhem. Number 10. Paper Mario. Although Super Mario RPG developer Square chose PlayStation as its 3D console of choice, that didn't mean Nintendo couldn't produce its own spiritual successor. And as it turns out, Mario makes a terrific RPG star. 2001's Paper Mario arrived near the end of the console's life cycle, yet was so beloved it spawned a number of sequels. The Mushroom Kingdom was simultaneously a beautiful fit for the game's art style and a great location for an easier RPG experience to those unfamiliar. The arts and crafts aesthetic would be a well that Nintendo would return to time and time again, and not just for Mario, but it's also helped this game age better than most on the console. Number 9. Resident Evil 2. Bigger, bolder, and undoubtedly scarier than what came before, Resident Evil 2 is one of the best in Capcom's survival horror series. The dual storyline of Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield is iconic now, offering more space to explore the intensely atmospheric Raccoon City. And despite the N64 being inferior hardware to the PlayStation, its port was actually pretty great. How Capcom was able to fit the game on an N64 pack while also offering better graphics and sound must be wizardry. That's not to mention its exclusive features like alternate costumes, additional in-game lore, and an item randomizer for additional playthroughs. Ports to Nintendo consoles are often considered the weakest, but with Resident Evil 2, Capcom proved that didn't have to be true. Number 8. Star Fox 64.
You got an enemy on your tail! Use the brake!
Star Fox 64 is one of the most important Nintendo releases, let alone one of the best N64 games. It has some of the best graphics and sound for the system, featuring entirely voiced lines that would reach iconicism. Although mostly on rails, the aerial combat is supremely satisfying thanks to areas that are littered with enemies and obstacles.
Go find your own target, Fox!
More important than how fun the game is to play, which is very, is what it brought along with it. The Rumble Pack. Star Fox 64 launched with the peripheral, adding one extra layer of immersion that would lead the way for it becoming a staple in controllers. Add on branching paths and a cast of memorable animal pilots, and Star Fox 64 is a gem. Number 7. Conker's Bad Fur Day. Both Nintendo and PlayStation heavily featured charming animals as heroic protagonists in the late 90s and early 2000s, and Conker's refusal to be what he appeared as was a brilliant course correct on Rare's part.
What's the money over here?
Following a night of heavy drinking, players can take Conker through increasingly wild levels as he attempts to make his way home to his girlfriend Barry. The Squirrel's adventure is packed with adult themes, hilarious violence, alcoholism, and toilet humor that reaches peak absurdity when Conker fights a massive singing pile of crap. Each encounter is more insane than the last, which has helped the game earn cult status. Additionally, its multiplayer modes that call back to the campaign's chapters are also fantastic.
You may be alright.
What do you mean, all right? Look at me. I'm broken in two. I'm just firewood from now. They'll be using me as toothpicks before you know it.
Number 6. Banjo-Kazooie. Some of the aforementioned charming animal protagonists came from Rare itself, and the Bear and Bird's first game is still considered to be one of the best 3D platformers of all time. When evil witch Gruntilda kidnaps his sister to steal her looks, Banjo and his backpack-loving friend Kazooie adventure through the dangerous worlds hiding inside her castle. The dual protagonists are great for platforming gameplay, with Kazooie offering a lot more variety than simply jumping, and the game's kooky cast of characters, all of which speak in rhyme, are like something out of a warped cartoon fairy tale. Some may prefer the sequel, with its more varied moveset and bigger worlds, but both are some of the greatest the N64 has to offer. Number 5. Mario Kart 64. When it comes to multiplayer madness on the N64, it's almost impossible to top Mario Kart 64. A significant step up from the SNES entry, the kart racer became the game to break out at sleepovers and family gatherings alike. Anyone can pick it up and play it thanks to its simple control scheme, though its frantic items and near-perfect track design kept us coming back for more so that we could dominate our friends. The competitiveness could continue through a battle mode that has only been enhanced with each subsequent entry. Mario Kart is one of Nintendo's most bankable franchises, and it's thanks to the outstanding groundwork laid out here that it has been able to become so. Number 4. GoldenEye 007. We did say Mario Kart 64 was almost impossible to top. When looking back at GoldenEye 007, it's strange to think about how much of a juggernaut it became for the system. Released 2 years after the movie it was based on, the FPS's famous multiplayer was added last minute without the higher-ups at Nintendo and Rare being aware of it. But it's that multiplayer that has earned the game its fame and high placement on this list. It was entirely groundbreaking at the time when the genre was mostly seen on PC. The single-player campaign was still fun, but we lost countless hours spraying bullets at our friends in the game's now celebrated maps. Number 3. The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. While it wouldn't reach the financial or critical highs of its predecessor, Majora's Mask is still one of Nintendo's most unique releases. Set in the twisted land of Termina, Link was tasked with stopping the Masked Skull Kid from crashing a terrifying moon into the land below. Repeating the same 3 days may have turned some players away, but with different events happening on different days and times, it actually taught you how to spend your time wisely. And the varied gameplay that came from Link's different forms was more than welcome. It was also loaded with side quests that showcased the surprisingly deep and often troubled NPCs. With themes of loss, heartache, familial bonds, and fear, Majora's Mask is an exceptional game. Number 2. Super Mario 64. When it comes to platformers, there's simply no beating the king. Super Mario 64 launched alongside the console and yet delivered a pristine 3D experience that many would attempt to copy. The story is as simple as it's always been: rescue Peach from Bowser. But everything else about the game was monumentally inventive. The way Mario controlled, the way players could manipulate the camera angles, the level design that made us want to stay in its worlds forever. No longer were we tasked with reaching the end of a screen. Challenging objectives in sandbox worlds, each of which begged to be mastered, has led to a speedrunning community unparalleled. And there's only one game that could top it.
Here we go!
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. In the end, how could it be anything else? The release of Ocarina of Time is still one of the biggest moments in video game history. It didn't just successfully transition the franchise into 3D, although it did that in spectacular fashion, but it showed that video games could be more than just a series of levels strung together. This was a world that felt lived in, a story that needed to be told, and it's an experience that any player can cherish. Its dungeons are also incredibly engaging, its locations now historic, and its innovative targeting system has forever changed the way we interact with video game environments. Ocarina is one of Nintendo's crown jewels on the N64 or any other system. In the mood for more awesome gaming content? Be sure to check out this video here on Mojo Plays. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.